Howdy! I'm CyberAxe. Some people call me Jeremy Benisek. And I would like to pitch to you something that's been on my mind. My health has been deteriorating and going downhill, and it got me thinking about what happens if I die. I know none of us want to think about that. To all of my stuff, like crypto keys. And what if I wanted a message to be sent to my family or the community that follows me, or I wanted to release assets to the community that I'm no longer going to use, but I need a way to do that on a time schedule when I die, and I didn't really find a lot of good resources for that. So I want to walk you through my thought process here. And it starts with something that goes like this. You die, and so your family and your friends, they get on your computer, or they get on their computers, worse, and they find all the pictures they can of you as a kid, whether they're good or bad, or they're embarrassing or not. And hopefully the person that's doing this is the one that's the most skilled with technology. But in your family, I want you to stop and think right now. Who in your family would be elected to gather up all your pictures and make a collage or a PowerPoint that represents your life? And what do you think the quality of that would be? I'm betting if you're married, you spent a lot of money on your wedding video. But I'm betting you're going to spend nothing on your death video. It got me thinking, well, what would they do? So they'd find these pictures, and they would go, if you're lucky, to Google Slides, and they would put in your name, and they'd find a picture of you, maybe they'd find a picture of you when you're, I don't know, a baby. And then they would say, oh, he's such a cute baby. And they would, they would do what they do. They would probably go back over here and, they'd grab that text because they don't know what they're doing, right? They're just going to put some text in here and they're going to say, oh, look, it's Jeremy as a baby, and they're going to put maybe a year if they even know the year. I don't even know the year, like, what, 1981, and so then they're going to try to make something nice, and they'll put in, like, your most professional photo, and they'll put some dates and time, and they'll say something nice, and they'll have, 20 or 40 slides, depending on how many photos there is, and they'll play, and maybe, maybe they'll have PowerPoint, maybe they'll be big spenders, the big spenders that have jobs, and they'll go and they'll click one of these, and they'll get you something, and it's going to have a fancy background then, and oh, it's going to be so much better. But what if that's not one representing me as CyberAxe? I mean, geez, I'm like one of the OG internet people. Sorry for the noise and all of that, and that doesn't represent, like, does this that they're going to find, and this is on my computer, like, what if they look on their computer? What if they don't even get to my computer, or have access, or someone takes it, or they look on Facebook? Imagine if they only have access to Facebook photos to represent your entire life. Everything you've done, all your achievements, all of the things you want to say to all your loved ones that you didn't say, that now's your chance. Or, in some cases, now's your chance to tell them off and screw themselves. I don't know. Kiss my ass. I don't know what your thing is. But think about, like, this is what's representing. And this is what happens. Like, this is 99.9% of funerals are literally just a slideshow with some photos. Sadly, I've put together a few of them. My daughter put together one recently, and it's very stressful. because you're doing it in a few days. You got to gather up all this stuff from people that are already stressed, and it never represents what the goal is. So yeah, this is what we've got right now. But instead, what if we had a way to spice it up to give you that ability to pick the content that you wanted, to put up the pictures you want, to have the feel, the theme, and automate that process, and then set it to where it'll automatically send these messages to the right audience when the time comes. That the audience that shows up that sees this message,
Hello, friends and family.
is
You're all
different
here.
than the message that's shown to your daughter or your mom or those people that you want to have a personal message to. Now, normally, what you're going to do is you're going to give it to someone like this, the lawyer-looking person, and you're going to hope that they're going to read a document and then they're going to follow through, or you're going to ask and plead with your family to follow through on these things and to not do this or to do that. And a lot of times it just doesn't happen. They're in their most stress point in their life. What we really need is a website, a product that you put that information in, it's encrypted, and the person that sets it up puts an encryption key word or passphrase in there that they then give the family members, and the family members use that to access that content when the time comes. So two different ways that you could have when the time comes. It could be a schedule and you need to log in every month, week, year, whatever, and push that back. Or it could be based on a death certificate, or it could be based on the family member just accessing the website with that passphrase. The problem with death certificates, it's really hard for worldwide. It's also difficult to get the death certificate if the body isn't able to be accessed. So say that you go down in a plane crash or a fire or 9/11 style event. Those are very difficult to get, and so your family could be waiting for a long time just for the money and the resources and everything wrapped up in it. So we don't want those messages to also be wrapped up in that. We want something very simple but also secure, so that you could also put something like encryption keys or bank account information or things that you can't easily put into your legal documents. I don't want to put my private key for Bitcoin, and it might change often. It might be something that I want to be able to update on the website and have that information accessible. I also might want to write some messages or have some documents or have some special pictures or special things that mean things that I want to all wrap together and be able to as my last messages, here they are. Here's an audio message. Some people used to put them on tape recorder, and so now we got a box of tapes in a closet that grandma wrote, or recorded her memories and her history on, and it's not even easy to access or use or get to or do anything with. The same with all the family photos. And as I'm looking through these family photos of what they're going to pick to represent me, it's even more frightening that I want to be the one to pick and represent those things and represent my life, and not just whoever has the most technical skill in the family at the time that's not super stressed and can put it together before the funeral. It seems like this is just a lot of burden to put on people. So my pitch is I would like to bring this all together, make an automated system that is a website that you go, you put your information in, you put an encryption phrase in or passphrase in, and encrypts all the data. It could even do it on the device, so not even the website knows what the information is, and then they need to verbally give that, or however give that to the receiving party. The receiving party uses that to access it. Or maybe there's a mechanism where the receiving party need to answer 3 questions correctly or whatever, identify or prove their identity with an ID or something. The goal being that the last person that should be dealing with any of this is like some court lawyer or some, bookworm that now is responsible for all your family information, and they're dealing with all of the money and the assets, and then there's this like information and these messages that really in a lot of cases matter more to people as those last words and last messages than even the money and some of the assets do. And so it seems like we should really have a place where I can put that information in, I can schedule time. If I don't push it back, then it releases, or if a death certificate or some other means that information is accessible to the people doing the funeral. There's typically only, less than a week between someone dying and a funeral, and that's not a lot of time to ask somebody to gather up all the family photos and make something that represents your life. It seems like we're setting up people for failure. So I hope you enjoyed this. Please think about it. Think about how this could work for you. Do you want to have such and such in your life be the one that's putting it all together to represent your legacy? Or do you want to have something really kick ass that's put together, that's planned, ready to go with heart touched and felt messages from you directly to the people that you care about? Overall, I think the business model goes something like this. It's an automated website. You log into the website, you pick from a list of, 1,000 different templates or 5 templates or whatever you want, different categories. You upload your pictures. The pictures automatically go into those templates, and you can preview each of the templates, um, records specialized messages, and then you put in the information for who does that message go to, their email, the phone number, whatever information is needed, and then assign it a encryption phrase. You give the encryption phrase to that person, and that person can access it at X point. So, for example, I'd like to record a message for my grandson that he can access on his 18th birthday or after his 18th birthday, and so I would record the message into the system. I would prepay in that situation for that amount of time up until he's 5 months old now, so I'd pay for 18, minus years, and then I would give his mom the encryption phrase, and his mom would then be responsible, or mom and dad would be responsible for giving him that encryption phrase when he turns 18. Or I'd make the encryption phrase a song that I would sing with him, or something that he would know just by my presence with him. So when he turns 18, he'll remember me and he'll know what that is. And so that would be a really fun way to do it. Another option would be if it's for me and I'm going to be the one that's actually doing it, then maybe paying monthly is a good way to know when I die. Because in essence, when I die, the credit cards stop and the bills don't get paid. So it's not a bad way to do it that way, or you just prepay in terms. So you prepay for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. The website overall is templates that have the music ready to go, have everything lined up so that you or the family members can just get on, put the content in, it's just there, it's ready to go, and then we provide the data in whatever means the client needs, whether it be USB and we overnight it to them, or it be DVDs or whatever the current technology is at that point, USBs or whatever, or provide it on the website directly that they can stream it. So more or less the basic overhead of the company is cold storage. Over time, typically cold storage becomes a lot cheaper, so if they're prepaying, you should be getting a good ROI there. If you own the equipment, then it's something where you can purchase the equipment, and then you have a pretty good idea of what the storage time and overhead will be for a long period. So you could look out 20 or 30 years and have all of the things paid for to cover those costs for a long period. and then be adding into that every year as you're adding more clients into the system. Overall, though, the goal would be that everything would be automated, and the only things that you might need dedicated help for would just really be a liaison for the the actual time of service when you're delivering this information to make sure that everything goes really smooth at that point. If somebody's going to pay for 30 years for you to wait to do something, or 18 years for my grandson to grow up and graduate high school, then you better damn deliver, on it at that point. But I think it turns into being this really fantastic service that it gives you a way to put away those memories and provide them later that we don't really have very good right now. When I got married, my grandma, who had passed away 20 plus years earlier or more, had made an Afghan that was for when I got married for my wife, that she had given to my sister, and my sister had held on to it all that time. So sister had held on to it for most of my life, and then this just comes out of nowhere with a little note in it. And so it's just one of those amazing things that I think we should be able to provide that same sentiment digitally, with all of the digital information and technology that's out there that should and needs to be delivered in these last messages. So my pitch is, my last message is a cloud service that allows you to set all of these things up from the pictures and videos that you already have, or record new stuff into it, encrypt it, store it, pay for it, and then have it time delivered at a time point or on an event point of your death or other situations. Maybe when you get married, maybe when you have your first child, maybe when whatever, and set those times up to do that process. So, last, what do I think this would take? I'm not quite sure. I think that it wouldn't take quite a bit of resources other than paying some developers to build the website and then estimate out the storage costs, whether we wanted to do that in-house or um, pay for an Amazon or something. The nice thing about doing in-house, you'd have more control over it, but then you're trying to manage hardware over 30 years is lots and lots of purchase cycles and management versus just storing it in someone else's cloud, um, and managing it from there. However, our cloud's gonna be, is Amazon storage or Azure gonna exist in 30 years? Who knows? But that would be part of the agreement and just part of the process of managing it, is that you're managing a long-term thing. The nice thing about managing a long-term thing is the customer is aware and the expectation is of that. So it's kind of something where you can build out that business model and the costs involved in it that the customer's paying for a quite a ways. And you think about someone's going to pay, $500 to $10,000 for wedding videos and editing and photo editing and all of the stuff that goes involved in that. You might see someone paying $250 to $5,000 or more to have this type of information stored. If you're sitting on, $5 million of Bitcoin and you don't know what it's going to be priced in 30 years, and you don't trust anybody in your family or trust anybody, or have any family or friends to be able to store that private key to release on your death, that information could just be gone. Like that money and all of that stuff could just disappear. So this gives a way for a lot of people and entities and that don't have someone, or that do have someone, or don't trust those someones, to have this information. And in the movies, you would mail yourself a letter, but you can't. There's no way you could trust the postal service, and postal offices don't even last 30 years. I mean, the postal service isn't going to exist in 30 years. So it's one of those things that I think this is a great solution to a lot of that.